City TV Vancouver is a proud supporter of Pride. Happening tonight in Vancouver.
I want my life back to normal with my husband.
Uneasy family members and hospital staff.
I'm concerned for some of their mental health.
As the province eases restrictions, we get an inside look at an ICU in BC and the patients and staff trying to recover from the damage of COVID-19.
It's awful. This family's just out for a walk.
A potential act of terrorism as 5 family members are run over by a pickup truck. Why police believe this was a premeditated mass murder.
Major traffic changes are hitting a section of Broadway in Vancouver. Just ahead, how businesses will have to continue dealing with construction that has already been going on for weeks.
It's just another hurdle that we have to go over.
This is City News Everywhere.
I'm Adrian Gobriel. It's being called a premeditated mass murder, the worst ever in London, Ontario's history. It was about 8:40 p.m. last night when it's alleged a black pickup truck was driving southbound here on Hyde Park Road and South Carriage. Now you can see that the black pickup truck actually mounted the curb. You can see the black skid marks here from the tires. Now as the truck continued to drive here on the sidewalk and along the grass, the truck struck 5 family members. You can also see a sign down at the end here of the grass, which is completely bent and flattened before the vehicle went back on the road and continued to speed away. 4 family members have tragically been killed. One, a 9-year-old boy, is in hospital. And I spoke with one witness who saw the truck fly right by her just moments before the horrific crash.
And mostly just saw a whole slew of people just on the ground waving their arms, trying to help people. There's a couple police officers doing compressions.
Paige Martin was stopped at a red light 2 blocks away when a black pickup truck flew past her.
A large black truck flew past me, and it was enough to shake my car and the next car beside me. And it was one of those things where you're just in shock and then continue to see them blow a couple more red lights.
We believe that this was an intentional act and that the victims of this horrific incident were targeted. We believe the victims were targeted because of their Islamic faith.
20-year-old London resident Nathaniel Veltman has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Police believe the reported attack was planned and premeditated. The victims include a 75-year-old and a 44-year-old woman, along with a 46-year-old man and a 15-year-old teenage girl. A 9-year-old boy is the lone survivor. He's currently in hospital, listed in serious condition.
Stage in the investigation, that's our belief, is that it was an intentional act.
The suspect continued to drive after the incident for about 10 minutes and was arrested here at London's Cherry Hill Mall. That's about 6 kilometers from the horrifying scene. Eyewitnesses say that he was wearing some sort of body armor as police took him into custody.
He was wearing a vest that appeared to be like body armor.
The family members have asked that we not share the identity of the victims. However, a friend did share with City News that the deceased are members of London's Pakistani community.
They're one of the nicest person I have ever known. A really beautiful family. I often saw them on the evening walks. Last I saw them on Thursday. They were walking in the same area. This is the same area I walk daily as well. And usually we come across paths with each other and exchange greetings.
For so many, this unthinkable loss is just sinking in for this community.
Knowing that, there's a kid, multiple kids, it's awful. This family's just out for a walk.
How family, friends, neighbors are starting to bring bouquets of flowers. There's a growing memorial here at the scene. And this is an incident that's shaken the entire community, especially the Muslim community here in London, Ontario, and in the surrounding area today. London's mayor calling it an act of mass murder rooted in unspeakable hatred.
Well, no criminal charges will be laid against the police officer who shot and killed Chantal Moore in New Brunswick last year. The 26-year-old Indigenous woman was shot by a member of the Edmundston Police Force during a wellness check. Now, at the time, investigators said the shooting occurred after the woman approached the officer with a knife in her hand. Quebec's independent police watchdog looked into this case. In a statement today, the prosecution's office says the evidence showed the officer was responding to a potentially lethal threat, and his actions were reasonable under the circumstances. Chantal's friends and family held a small gathering on the steps of the BC legislature in Victoria on Friday, demanding justice and wanting answers.
Chantal Moore, she had 7 bullet wounds in her body, and a broken arm and a broken leg. And how does that count for a wellness check?
Prosecutors in the case concluded there was no reasonable prospect of conviction. BC is reporting 481 new cases of COVID-19 over the past 3 days, as well as 12 additional deaths. We have 199 people in hospital, and of those, 63 are in intensive care. Deputy Provincial Health Officer Dr. Reka Gustafson says the province is doing very well with immunization. 72% of all eligible residents aged 12 and up have had at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. She says there's a lot to look forward to in an immunized population.
It also means public health teams can return to some of the other equally important work that keep us well, to prevent overdoses, to prevent injuries, and to reduce health inequities in our population. We are on a good path to get back to work, to school, to university, to seeing friends, to traveling, resuming those connections that are so important to all of us.
Pharmacies are being stocked with vaccines as the second phase of the rollout gets underway in this province. So that means people who received their first dose earlier this year will start to get contacted about their second shot. So if you got AstraZeneca for your first shot, you have the option to get the same or Moderna or Pfizer for the second. The province's top doctor says it is safe to mix and match. This comes as we're a week out from the second phase of reopening, when a maximum of 50 people will be allowed for outdoor social gatherings. Movie theaters and live theaters will have limited seating, and travel restrictions within BC are set to be lifted.
Is it safe to really open everything up? I mean, I would love to get back to normal, 100%. I want my life back to normal with my husband.
Rika Johnson is in tears at the thought of a return to normal. That means having her husband, Jeremy, home. He's spent months in hospital with COVID-19 complications. And as the province looks to ease restrictions in the coming weeks, there's more uneasiness here at Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster, where staff are still recovering from the third wave shock to the intensive care unit.
Weeks since the symptoms started, he started to get a fever, body chills. His cough got progressively worse.
44-year-old Jeremy Johnson has been in hospital since April 21st when he was admitted with COVID-19. But the common symptoms were just the beginning. He was eventually cleared of the virus but suffered complications such as kidney failure and pneumonia that landed him in ICU. He's one of many patients admitted during the third wave. Doctors here say it was the worst wave yet, with younger and sicker patients.
It's almost a lost year in the sense of it's gone by, it's been so long because it's been exhausting and crushing in some ways, but it's been so short. I can't even imagine what a year ago was like from now, because it just seemed like it just happened.
And some staff don't know if they can handle another spike in cases.
You know, you'd asked before about what I think the next concerns are. I think it's for how our healthcare system is doing, how the healthcare workers are doing through this, and how they recover. I'm concerned for some of their mental health, and I'm concerned for their burnout.
Some are putting on a brave face, even while emergency notifications sound off around them.
It has had a good impact on I think, team building, and we're like a little family here in ICU.
Cap lab 2, code blue, cap lab 2.
It's also been very emotional for us, helping some patients out when they're very, very sick and when there's no one at the bedside. or family or friends to support the patient because they're not allowed to visit. So we take on a lot of that emotional toll.
Doctors here say it's much calmer than it was just 4 weeks ago, but a new stress test is coming.
As we put off surgery, people truly are suffering, right? So we really have to pivot back in and catch back up on our surgeries, but folks are tired, right? And, I can tell you that this has been, it's been challenging for everybody. And healthcare workers, the challenge is to be able to refocus after this, to get our strength back to be able to do our regular work that was challenging to begin with.
Johnson is also a nurse, but the sound of code blue is haunting. She's on leave, unable to work at the hospital with the constant fear that the next code blue could be for her husband.
I don't want anyone else to go through this because this is just heart-wrenching. And while this virus is still around, I don't know how safe it would be to really open things up completely.
Crystal Adaris, City News.
Moderna has submitted for authorization for use of its COVID-19 vaccines in teens to Health Canada. The drug maker says a U.S. trial of 2,500 young people aged 12 to 17 indicated the shot was 93% to 100% effective against COVID-19. It also says no cases of the virus were found in participants who had received 2 doses. One man is dead and 2 other people are hurt following a single vehicle crash in Surrey this morning. And this shut down a section of 108th Avenue. Emergency crews were called to the area near Hawthorne Rotary Park just after 7 o'clock. One passenger was found badly hurt. Now, despite the efforts of paramedics and firefighters, he died at the scene. The other 2 people in the vehicle are now in the hospital. They are expected to survive. Police say while the cause of the crash is still being investigated, impairment may have been a factor.
At this point, what restaurants have been through and what we've been through in this location for the last year and a half, it's just another hurdle that we have to go over.
The Broadway subway project is continuing construction in Vancouver, and part of that work has caused major traffic changes around East Broadway and Main this week. Turning is restricted, lanes are closed off, and the nearby businesses will have to deal with this challenge potentially all summer.
It's tough for deliveries to come in. Sometimes our suppliers can't make it in to drop off food.
Ron McGilvery owns Fabled Diner, which is right in the middle of all the construction on East Broadway and Main Street. As you can see, it's hard for a car to get around here.
The last little bit, people can't find parking to come into the restaurant. So we just reopened up last week. And then just with the changes going on, it's tough to get people to come in.
The Broadway subway project will provide SkyTrain service to a heavily used Vancouver thoroughfare and will eventually connect UBC to the rest of the SkyTrain system. This part of construction around East Broadway and Main Street has to do with sewer relocation and also the installation of elevated traffic decks so construction can continue underground. The Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure says in a statement that traffic deck installation will be finished in the fall, and that's the next time this stretch of Broadway will have 4 lanes again. McGilvery says while it is tough, he has some confidence in the subway project management and feels the project will help the city in the end.
Broadway, they're good at communicating and letting us know what is happening, and they kind of feel the pain as much as they can.
It is a little painful. A couple of blocks north, East 8th Avenue is also closed off between Quebec and Main Streets, which is exactly where Mellow Patisserie is. The owner says on the phone they've seen 20% fewer customers during the construction, and you can see why. It's completely obscured by office portables and fencing. When the Canada line was being built in the Cambie corridor a decade ago, dozens of businesses closed and many filed lawsuits for lost profits and other hardships during the construction along Cambie Street. The Broadway subway project says it's still on schedule to open in 2025.
We just have to kind of grin and bear it for the next little bit and look at it that, long term. I think that, looking back at what happened when they did the Cambie corridor, I think they learned from that. We just have to keep plugging away and, and hopefully fill tables in here.
In Vancouver, Kier Junos, City News.
Well, staying with traffic, give yourself some extra time if you're driving to White Rock's waterfront. As of today, Marine Drive is down to 1 lane around the pier, but that closure is just for eastbound traffic. It's so restaurants can expand their patios onto the road to help them during the pandemic. Some members of City Council are concerned about traffic and hope Marine Drive will return to 2 lanes this summer if restrictions are relaxed on July 1st. But the project could also be extended to September. Well, 2 people have been stabbed in what appeared to be unprovoked attacks in Chilliwack last night. RCMP say a 58-year-old man was approached by someone he did not know around Mary Street and Spadina Avenue just after 9 o'clock. Now, he managed to walk himself to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and has since been released. About 45 minutes later, an 80-year-old man was stabbed at Mary Street and Alexander Avenue. Now, the victim in this case suffers from dementia and does remain in the ICU. Both of these stabbings are believed to be related. It is a sad end to a search for a diver who went missing on Sunday in the waters off Strathcona Park on the North Shore. Mounties say the person, who is not being identified, was from North Vancouver. Now, in a statement to City News, North Vancouver RCMP says there doesn't appear to be a criminal element to what happened. The department spokesperson is calling this a really sad event, noting that their hearts go out to the family. The coroner service is investigating.
On D-Day alone, 359 Canadians were killed, with over 700 wounded, among the total of 10,000 Allied casualties. While the Army is a dominant when D-Day is remembered, both the Royal Canadian Navy and the Royal Canadian Air Force played significant roles in the English Channel and in the air above Normandy on that fateful day.
Well, his voice and his presence set the tone for so many Remembrance Day ceremonies in the city of Vancouver. Cam Cathcart died over the weekend. The former broadcaster was a much-loved and well-respected military historian. He was a key figure in planning and hosting the annual Remembrance Day service at Victory Square, and was a huge advocate for veterans. We spoke with him last November as he finished planning a scaled-down ceremony because of the pandemic.
Many of our veterans from the Second War are gone. In fact, about 200 a year are dying, unfortunately. And we only have about maybe 10 or 12,000 left. And these men and women are slowly leaving us. They walk a little slower. They're a little on the vulnerable side. But the other thing I want to mention here quite quickly is that we're facing another war right now, as you well know, the pandemic war. And it's dreadful, and it's taking the lives of a lot of vulnerable people as well.
Cam Cathcart was 83 years old.